Hello everyone, Dr. William Chen here. I hope you are doing well today. Let me start with something that may surprise you. One of the worst things you can do right after eating is something millions of people do every single day without even thinking about it. They finish breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and then they sit down. They sit on the sofa, in the car, at the office desk, or they lie back in bed thinking they are resting and helping their body digest. But in reality, that habit may be quietly damaging your health, meal after meal, day after day, year after year. And the problem is not that it makes you feel instantly sick. That would be too easy to notice. The real danger is that it works slowly and silently. Your body may look calm on the outside, but inside, a chain reaction starts the moment you eat. Your blood sugar rises, your insulin rises, your circulation changes, your digestive system begins working hard. And if you stay completely still right after a meal, especially after a large one, your body often has to work much harder to manage all of that than it should. Now, I want to be clear from the beginning. I am not saying you must go and do intense exercise after every meal. I am not telling you to run, lift weights, or do anything extreme. In fact, the answer is much simpler than most people think. There is one gentle thing you can do after eating that helps your body process food better, control blood sugar more effectively, support circulation, reduce that heavy sluggish feeling, and over time may even lower your long-term metabolic risk. So in this video, I'm going to explain why sitting down after a meal is such a common mistake, what actually happens inside your body when you do it, why just a little movement changes everything, and most importantly, exactly what to do instead. And please stay with me until the end, because the biggest lesson here is not just about one meal. It is about how small daily habits quietly shape your energy, your weight, your blood sugar, and your future health. If you've ever felt sleepy after lunch, bloated after dinner, foggy in the afternoon, or strangely hungry again just a short time after eating, then this message is especially for you. Let's begin with what happens the moment you eat. When you eat a meal, especially one that contains carbohydrates, your digestive system breaks that food down into smaller pieces, including glucose, which enters your bloodstream. That is normal. Your body is supposed to do that. Food is fuel, but the speed and the size of that rise matter a great deal. If your blood sugar rises too fast and too high, your body has to react quickly. Your pancreas releases insulin to push that sugar out of the blood and into your cells, where it can be used or stored. That process sounds simple, but when it happens too aggressively, it creates stress. Repeated blood sugar spikes are not harmless little events. Over time, they put wear and tear on your system. Your pancreas has to keep working hard. Your cells can gradually become less responsive to insulin. That is how insulin resistance begins to develop, and insulin resistance is one of the major roads leading toward prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, belly fat accumulation, fatigue, and poor metabolic health. But it doesn't stop there. Large post-meal spikes can also affect how you feel in the short term. First, your blood sugar rises quickly. Then insulin rushes in. Then sometimes that response overshoots, and your blood sugar drops faster than your body likes. That is when people experience that all-too-familiar crash. Suddenly they feel tired, heavy, unmotivated, mentally slow. They start craving coffee, sugar, snacks, or something sweet. They think they are lacking willpower, but often, what they are really experiencing is unstable blood sugar after the meal they just had. And now here is the important part. The body has a built-in tool to help control this, and it is far more powerful than most people realize. That tool is your muscles. When your muscles contract, they use energy. And one of the remarkable things about muscle tissue is that working muscles can pull glucose out of the bloodstream. In other words, movement gives your body another way to deal with the rise in blood sugar after a meal. Instead of leaving all the work to insulin and the pancreas, you allow your muscles to share the load. That is why a little movement after eating can have such a meaningful effect. This is the part many people miss. Movement after a meal is not just about burning calories. In fact, thinking only in terms of calories is far too small. The real power of movement is that it changes what your body does with the meal in real time. It helps your system distribute nutrients more efficiently. It encourages glucose to be used instead of floating around in the bloodstream. It reduces that sudden metabolic traffic jam that happens when you eat and then become completely still. Now think about what happens when you do the opposite. You finish eating and immediately sit. Your big muscles are quiet. Your legs are still. Your body's largest glucose-absorbing tissues are not being asked to do anything. Blood flow slows compared with gentle movement. Digestion continues, absorption continues, glucose continues entering the bloodstream, but you are not helping your body clear it efficiently. So your internal system has to compensate. This is why sitting down after a meal can be such a deceptive habit. It feels harmless because it is passive. It feels natural because so many people do it. It even feels pleasant because a full stomach often makes people want to rest. But easy is not always beneficial. What feels comfortable in the moment may be creating a pattern your body pays for later. And I'm not just talking about people with diabetes. This matters even if your lab tests are still normal. Many people spend years with rising insulin, rising waistlines, afternoon crashes, increasing hunger, and worsening energy long before they are ever told they have a blood sugar problem. The body usually whispers before it screams. If you listen early, you can change direction early. So what should you do instead? The simplest answer is this. Do not collapse into stillness the moment you finish eating. Give your body a short window of gentle activity. Not punishment, not a workout, just movement. A short walk after a meal is one of the best options. It does not have to be long. It does not have to be fast. You do not need to sweat. You do not need special shoes, a gym membership, or a complicated program. Even a gentle walk for 10 minutes can help engage the muscles of your legs, hips, and core. Those muscles begin using glucose. Circulation improves. Digestion often feels smoother. The body handles the meal better. And that is where many people overcomplicate things. They think, if I cannot do 30 minutes, why bother? But health does not always work like that. The body responds to signals. A short walk is a signal. Standing up is a signal. Light movement is a signal. Repeated consistently, those signals become one of the most powerful forms of medicine you can give yourself without swallowing a pill. Let me explain why walking works so well. When you walk after eating, you are using many muscle groups at the same time. Your calves contract, your thighs work, your glutes activate, your core stabilizes you, your arms swing, your heart rate rises slightly. Your body moves from passive processing to active management. Instead of saying, pancreas, handle everything, you are telling the whole system, let's deal with this together. That is a very different internal environment from sitting in a chair and scrolling on your phone for the next 40 minutes. And there is another important benefit. Many people say they feel bloated, overly full, or uncomfortable after a large meal. Gentle movement can help here too. Not by speeding digestion in some magical way, but by preventing that stagnant, heavy feeling that comes from eating and then staying motionless. A short walk often leaves people feeling lighter, clearer, and more awake. They feel less like the meal is sitting in them like a stone. Now let me address a common belief that causes confusion. Some people were told growing up that they should sit or lie down after eating to help digestion. Others were told movement after meals is dangerous or harmful. The truth is more nuanced. I am not advising vigorous exercise immediately after a heavy meal if it makes you uncomfortable. Sprinting, high-intensity intervals, or hard training right after a large dinner may not feel good for many people. But gentle activity is different. Gentle movement is not the enemy of digestion. For many people, it is the missing support that digestion has been asking for. The key word here is gentle. Gentle walking, gentle standing, gentle household movement. Even tidying the kitchen, washing dishes, walking around the block, walking while taking a phone call, or pacing in the garden is better than becoming completely sedentary. And what if you cannot go for a walk? That is an important question, because not everyone can. Some people are older. Some have joint pain. Some live in very hot or very cold climates. Some are at work. Some are recovering from illness. Some have mobility limitations. But the principle still holds. After a meal, use your muscles if you can. If walking is not possible, then stand for a while. March gently in place. Do a few heel raises while holding a counter. Move around the house. Do light chores. If even that is difficult, then perform simple seated leg movements instead of sinking into total stillness. The goal is not perfection, the goal is to interrupt inactivity. Your body benefits when muscles wake up after food comes in. This is where people often underestimate the long game. They hear advice like this and think, can 10 minutes really matter? One meal, perhaps not dramatically. One day, maybe not visibly. But 3 meals a day, week after week, month after month, year after year? Absolutely. That is how habits work. The body keeps score quietly. A small benefit repeated often becomes a major difference over time. Think about the opposite pattern. If someone eats breakfast, sits at work, eats lunch, sits again, comes home, eats dinner, and then sits or lies down for the evening, that person may be spending most of their post-meal hours in a metabolically inactive state. It is not one meal that causes the problem. It is the repetition. Metabolic dysfunction is often built on repetition, but so is metabolic health. This is why I want you to think beyond blood sugar for a moment. When you stop sitting immediately after meals and begin moving gently instead, you are not only helping glucose control, you are also building a healthier relationship with your day. You reduce the pull towards sluggishness. You interrupt the habit of passive overeating, followed by passive recovery. You become someone whose body expects movement, not someone whose body braces for stillness. That shift matters more than most people realize. As we get older, it matters even more. Muscle mass naturally declines with age if we do not actively preserve it. This is one reason blood sugar often becomes harder to manage later in life. Less muscle means less metabolic capacity. If you lose muscle and spend more time sitting, your body becomes less efficient at handling meals. That means post-meal activity becomes not less important, but more important. The older you are, the more valuable these simple habits can become. And let me say something very directly here. Many people are waiting for a grand solution to fix their health. They want the perfect diet, the perfect supplement, the perfect medication, the perfect morning routine. But some of the most effective changes are not grand at all. They are humble, they are repeatable, they are almost too simple to be exciting. Stand up after you eat. Walk for a few minutes. Let your muscles participate in the meal you just consumed. That may not sound glamorous, but the body loves consistency more than excitement. If you are someone who eats dinner and then immediately goes to the sofa every night, I do not want you to feel guilty. I want you to feel empowered, because this is a change you can start today. You do not need to wait for Monday. You do not need special equipment. You do not need to overhaul your entire life. You simply need a new ending to your meals. Imagine this. You finish dinner. Instead of saying, "Now I rest," you say, "Now I move for 10 minutes. That is it. You walk inside the house. You walk outside if you can. You stand and clean up. You call a friend and pace while talking. You make movement the bridge between eating and sitting. That single shift may change your energy more than you expect. Many people notice that when they walk after meals, they sleep better after dinner, crave less sugar later in the evening, and feel more stable the next day. Why? Because the body likes rhythm. It likes gentle transitions. It likes nutrients to be handled efficiently instead of flooding and crashing. We often think of movement only as exercise. But movement is also regulation. It is communication between your muscles and your metabolism. And there is a deeper lesson here. Your body was not designed for the modern pattern of eat, sit, snack, sit, scroll, and sleep. It was designed to move regularly. Not necessarily to train like an athlete every day, but to use muscles often. To stand, to walk, to carry, to shift, to stay alive through action, not stillness. When you move after meals, even briefly, you are working with your biology instead of against it. That is why this advice is so powerful. It is simple enough to ignore, but important enough to transform people who actually use it. Now let me give you a practical rule. After your larger meals, especially lunch and dinner, aim for 10 minutes of gentle movement. If you can do 15, wonderful. If you can only do 5, start there. If you are very fit, you still benefit. If you are older, you benefit. If you are overweight, you benefit. If you are trying to protect yourself from future blood sugar problems, you benefit. The intensity matters less than the consistency. And if you want to make it even easier, attach it to something automatic. For example, after breakfast, walk before checking your phone. After lunch, walk before returning to your desk. After dinner, clean up, and then walk before sitting on the sofa. The easier the habit is to trigger, the more likely it is to last. Do not aim for dramatic effort. Aim for reliable repetition. Another useful point: this habit can also change how much you eat over time. People who regularly move after meals often become more aware of how different foods affect them. They notice which meals leave them energized and which leave them drained. They feel the difference between overeating and eating enough. The body gives better feedback when it is not buried under stillness and a sugar crash. So if you take one message from me today, let it be this: never make complete stillness your immediate response to a meal. Your body is asking for partnership. Food has come in. Now let your muscles help process it. You do not need an extreme plan. You need a wiser rhythm. Stand up, walk slowly, move gently. Let the meal settle through activity, not inactivity. If you have diabetes, heart disease, balance problems, severe arthritis, or any medical condition that limits movement, please speak with your own doctor about what kind of post-meal activity is safe for you. This video is educational and not a substitute for personal medical care, but for many people, simple post-meal movement is one of the safest, most practical, and most overlooked health habits available. What I love about this advice is that it gives people hope without making false promises. It does not say one walk cures everything. It does not pretend 10 minutes replaces good nutrition, good sleep, strength training, stress management, or medical treatment when needed. But it does remind us that the body responds beautifully to small, intelligent actions. And that matters, because real health is rarely built from one heroic choice. It is built from ordinary choices repeated with care. So tonight, after your next meal, do not drop into the chair as if the day is over. Give your body just a little more from you. A few minutes, a little movement, a short walk, a small act that says, "I understand what my body needs." That is how health improves. Quietly, daily, meaningfully. And after a few weeks, do not be surprised if you start feeling lighter after meals, clearer in your mind, steadier in your energy, and more in control of your hunger. Sometimes the most powerful health changes are not the loud ones. They are the ones you can actually live with. So please, remember this phrase: after you eat, don't sit down right away. Move first. Your future blood sugar may thank you. Your energy may thank you. Your metabolism may thank you. And your older self may thank you most of all. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Dr. William Chen, and I truly appreciate you spending this time with me. If this message helped you, keep it close, share it with someone you care about, and start with your very next meal. Wishing you good health, steady energy, and a long, strong life. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon.